and a steal. Miller retreats to the three-point line and hits again. Oh, you beauty! What a head, son! What a head!
Welcome to the No Regard podcast. My name's Nathan Bleakley.
I'm Marcelo Lucha.
Big episode 12 and plenty to talk about this week, Marcelo.
Yeah, we've got to react to that NBA draft.
We were quite active on Twitter with our opinions. Some positive, like some of my tweets. Like I was happy with a few.
Oh, you were having a great day.
But and even the Bulls did well. Like it was great seeing the low pick. And then some other people were a bit more gloomy with their Twitter reactions.
Oh, mate, look. I turned off Twitter after the New York Knicks made that pick, and we're gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean.
So did you really empathise with those booing New York Knicks fans?
Oh, for sure. I would have been booing as well. I probably would have been booing louder. And like at the Barclays Center, honestly, I would have hoped that more people would boo it. Because we'll get into it. We're gonna get into it. We'll dive right in. But I wasn't happy. Man. I wasn't happy this week at all.
Oh well, good points. So NBA Draft 2015 was made this technically Friday for us, Thursday for the US.
Yeah, and this is a quick turnaround for the pod as well. We did get that last episode out.
We did get it out like on Wednesday, and we're sorry we're a bit off with the, we've gone through the last bit of our exam block. But by the way,
we're on holidays now, man.
We're free. We're on holidays. We'll
Bro, how good does it feel to procrastinate knowing you're not procrastinating? Because there's nothing for you to do.
Very true.
You're just chilling. You're just doing what you want to do, man.
Permanent procrastination for the next month. It's going to be great.
That's all it is, man.
Oh well. So we'll hop right into the draft order.
Yep.
Like, we're going to start with an obvious one.
So,
pick of the NBA draft.
It was Minnesota choosing first, and
Karl Anthony Towns. Like, this is what we all expected.
We both predicted it. Yep.
And what can you say? This was a great pick. It's who they needed to pick. It's who they should have picked, and it is who they went with. So I honestly think this is a great development for that Minnesota offense and defense as well. Like, it depends whether you plug him at the 4 or the 5, but I think they'll initially start him at the 4.
Yeah, I think for a player like that, you'd have to start him at the 4 because you don't want him banging up against centers that are bigger than him as well.
Especially when you got like guys like Pekovic, who is maybe not the most skilled big man, but he's someone experience. Who can. He's someone like maybe a rich man's Thiago Splitter, where you can use him to take all those hits, do all like the defensive dirty work, and then you can get the more glitz and glamour production out of Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah, and you got to remember they have the reigning Rookie of the Year, Andrew Wiggins. They have Anthony Bennett as well, who we haven't seen develop entirely, but he was the former first.
Look, I think potentially there's a role for Anthony Bennett in the NBA as a role player, but geez, he shouldn't have been a number 1 pick. Like
No, but do you see them as a playoff team next year?
No,
me neither.
Not in the West. I think they won't be the last seeded one though. Anthony Bennett might develop. Mm-hmm. We have Andrew Wiggins, who will end up, I think, developing his game as the centerpiece of that Minnesota. I think he'll get more efficient with his production, everything like that. Obviously, we'll see Karl Anthony Towns and his first season in the NBA, which I'm really excited for. And then obviously guys like, hopefully Ricky Rubio has a clean bill of health and be able to provide for all these guys on the offensive end, as well as Zach LaVine, who is
one of our favorite players.
He's just an absolute jumping
He's a trampoline. It's ridiculous. What I don't want to see is them tanking though.
They don't need to though.
They have too much potential to tank.
And the good thing is, like, once these guys need all the contracts, as I said, next week, there'll already be a massive cap jump, everything like that. Mm-hmm. So they'll be able to pay all these guys.
Exactly, and so with so much upside, you don't want to be limiting it. You want it to grow.
Like, you got to think too. There's even guys that we haven't mentioned yet, like Sabaz Muhammad, as well as Gorgie Dang, who are great young players as well. This is a great young core.
Yeah.
It's not going to produce into great results next season, but I still think they can win. I reckon maybe
even the year after.
Exactly.
Even if it takes 3 years.
I can see them winning 20-something games next season. A bit of a progress on last season. They'll slowly progress into a better and better team.
Yeah. So. Great pick at number 1.
Great pick at number 1. So now let's move on to number 2. It shook up. I reckon this had ripple effects throughout the rest of the first round.
And it will have on free agency as well, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah, so I reckon the Los Angeles Lakers made a pivotal pick in picking D'Angelo Russell with their second pick. Now, this guy is an absolute superstar in the making, in my opinion. There's been a lot of comparisons made to James Harden and Steph Curry.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that might be reaching a bit, but you never know. This is a young player. He's 19. He's shown that he can carry an offense of a poorer college team. Great handle. Probably maybe even the best shooting player in the draft, averaging 41% from three. I mean, the Lakers have maybe snagged themselves a superstar here.
Yeah, and, what else was there to pick? Like, who else was there to pick here? You could have gone Jalil, but at the end of the day, I think you give that up for a backcourt heavy system.
And I feel like big guys do take longer to develop in the way that, like, you can either wait. I feel like, obviously, Jalil's ready to go straight away, and I don't take anything away from him. But they have the potential, as we'll talk about later, to chase several bigs in free agency. I feel like if the Lakers want to make a change right now, there's a lot better bigs in free agency right now than there is guards. So you pick someone who's a brilliant passer as well, who's going to be able to provide for all these options. I reckon he's the perfect backcourt running mate for Kobe at the moment.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, I agree with you on that. That's going to make their backcourt competitive.
Exactly, and he looks like he has the drive. Like, obviously, he was making a whole bunch of noise before the draft, like, I want to be drafted by the Lakers. Like, Everything he said, everything he did was like, I want to be drafted by the Lakers. So the Lakers see a guy that obviously wants to be at their organization. Great pick by the Lakers. I saw a few comments like that they should have drafted Jalil, but I think you take everything into account. I reckon they made the right pick. And we'll see that in years to come. Yeah,
because you draft Jalil Okafor, you get instant offense in the post, but it's not the same. You want a guard-heavy system to be strong because you're in the West where pretty much guards have been running this league.
And if everything remains the same too, you have Jordan Clarkson, who was probably the one shining light of the Lakers last season.
Yeah,
he's coming off the bench as a great spark plug as the sixth man. Like, that's a good offense.
Yeah, okay, but what if Minnesota hadn't taken Karl Anthony Towns? You reckon they would have taken him?
D'Angelo?
Yeah.
I don't reckon. I reckon they are, from everything that we've seen, they're committed to guys like Ricky Rubio and Zach LaVine.
No. I mean, would the Lakers have taken Towns?
Yeah, you couldn't have not taken Towns.
Okay. But see, there we go. There's the disparity in the quality of two players in Okafor and Towns.
Very true. All right, let's move on to the Philadelphia 76ers, aka the team of centers. Like, let's be real, like, they picked best player available, which I think was the right choice. Because what Philly are doing at the moment, they're searching for their star, someone that'll transcend them from bottom feeder to a playoff team.
Yep.
They want a star, and the best way to get a star is just to keep drafting best player available. Look, I think they made the correct choice of everyone who was on the board. You couldn't let Jalil slip anymore.
No.
But it does raise questions in the future. Do they keep NB? Do they keep Noel? Or do they keep Okafor?
Look, for me, I think Noel stays. He's not going anywhere. You can't let Noel go.
In my eyes, I actually see them... Look, Noel's been great, but that's the thing. He's going to fetch the most on the trade market at the moment. If they tried to trade Embiid, imagine how much they could really get considering he hasn't played yet, and there's a huge injury question over him. I don't reckon they'll trade anyone this season. I reckon they'll commit with this team, obviously, since Embiid isn't playing yet.
Yeah.
I reckon Noel and Okafor can be a pretty potent front court to work with.
Right, because last year we were talking about Embiid being the next big thing.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not going to say Greg Oden yet, but it does have a few vibes of that injury-affected big. Foot injuries are a big red flag. That's just, there's nothing else you can say, especially while you play basketball. But in terms of Okafor, I think he's a great pick. He's the most ready-made NBA player in this draft. He's going to provide instant offense for this struggling Philadelphia team. Like, he's going to be the go-to option in their first season, and I'm really excited to see how Okafor performs at this Philly team. Because, to be honest, I think he can be a Rookie of the Year candidate now at Philly because he'll get the most touches out of probably any other rookie. So I look for big numbers from Okafor in his first year.
Right. I think Philly will still tank next year, though.
Yeah, you can see that. Like whether they tank or not, they're still a bottom five team for me, easily.
I don't know. That East is pretty bad right now.
But I still see. I think teams like New York and Brooklyn won't let themselves slip below Philly.
Right. No, well, I hope so, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
speaking of New York, we might move on to the most talked about pick in this draft so far. Kristaps Porzingas to New York Knicks at number 4. Got any opinions, Marcelo?
Look, for me, this is the worst thing, apart from trading out, that we could have done. This guy, and I know you disagree with me, so I'm going to go to
I'm going to let you talk, though. Go.
Look, he's a project. There's no way he's ready this coming year. There's no way he's going to do well as a starter. Okay, even off the bench, he's not going to do well. Okay, he might get his 30-point games here or there. It's not going to make him a good player. Even the second year, I don't know if this guy can be that good. Okay, because we got to talk about, he's got to put some weight on, for starters, to bang with the bigs in the NBA, right? And I know he's been playing professionally in Spain, but it's not the same. This is a completely different league where it's much more physical, you know? Yeah, the Spanish players are really technical, and he can shoot. He's a really good shooter. But physically, I just can't see him competing, okay? Because you got to put him in that front court with Carmelo Anthony, who's a bully, okay? Like, you got to get to Carmelo's size, man. That's who you got to be. But I absolutely hate this pick because so much can go wrong, and we need to win now because at the end of the day, Melo's only getting older, okay?
The problem with the New York Knicks for perhaps their entire last 15 years is thinking short term. They'll trade picks to think short term. They'll be going for the instant gratification picks, the instant gratification trades that more often than not affect them badly. Mm-hmm. So maybe this is a transition in thinking long term for New York. Now, arguing that maybe thinking long term in terms of the timing of thinking long term when Carmelo is ready to go now and there's no indication they want to trade Carmelo and that he still wants to be their centerpiece. I think moving into talking to being a long-term thinker, and I think that's the one good thing from Phil Jackson. And look, I think the potential can be sky high on this guy. People talking Dirk, Mark II, all that sort of stuff. He's not going to be a banger initially, but he hasn't shown any sort of reluctance that he wants to go on the post. Mm-hmm. There will be growing pains, but I think long-term, if New York can show as much faith in this guy as this guy has shown enthusiasm for New York so far, look, it can be a great pick, but there has to be full commitment from both sides. They can't backtrack out of this. They picked Kristaps. They need to either commit to him or trade him now. Like, they can't backtrack in a year or two because by then his trade value is going to be nothing.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, the question is, can he be ready in time for Melo's, peak? You know, because Melo's at his peak right now. It's not going to get much better for this than Melo.
Melo is probably going to come down the mountain soon.
Yeah.
And look, Melo can win a championship as the best player on the team, but he can't be the best player on the team by a significant margin. There needs to be other guys to help him, and that'll come through free agency. But look, Kristaps needs to be a solid contributor, and he needs to be that within the next 2 seasons. And look, if his shooting, touch, and his movement is as good as we've been told it is, I can see him contributing his first season, perhaps even a first or second team or rookie, because he'll get the minutes.
Wow.
Look, too much has been said that he's not ready. He's not ready. He's one of the few guys in this draft that has played at the professional level. Mm-hmm. He looks like he has a solid head on his shoulders in the terms of he has the work rate. He has the I don't care what people say about me in terms of he didn't particularly mind that he was being booed significantly in this draft. He's ready to prove people wrong, and I think he will prove people wrong.
Well, I hope you're right about that, but at the end of the day, I can't buy into this rebuilding process because
it seems like they're sort of being a bit schizophrenic. Half of them wants to go full rebuild, half of them wants to win now.
Look,
so
for me, Melo, when healthy and playing well, is a top 5 player in this league.
I'll buy that.
I could make a legitimate argument that he is on par with Kevin Durant as the best scorer in this league. The guy can do everything. So if we're going to rebuild, now do we trade Anthony, right, for a few first round picks down the road and a couple of role players.
You feel like they have to commit one way or the other.
So it's got to be one way or the other, right? Like you said. So either Kristaps has to contribute
right away,
develop instantly. It has to be instant. We have to go get some guys in free agency, and it has to be like I don't think we make the playoffs this coming year. I think we just miss out. But that next year, in 2 years, we need to be in the playoffs. We need to be.
And I think that's a solid enough timeline for him to contribute in a meaningful way.
Right.
Let's move on to the 5th pick of the NBA draft.
Yep.
Super Mario, who did play for your club in football.
Right. So straight out of Barcelona. What can we say here, man? Orlando need more than him, though, to be a legitimate.
I reckon it was perfect for Orlando because they're not planning to make too much noise straight away. They needed shooting. They needed someone who can contribute on the wing, especially when they're looking like they're going to let Tobias Harris go because he's looking to get a few big offers from other teams.
Look, this guy can play at the 2 or the 3.
Well, he's 6'8". Like, that's massive. Like, you can play at the 3, definitely, and he's got a crazy shooting touch. He's a massive slasher. He has, some are saying he has that Kobe mentality. So, this could be the player that I could see this guy being a star. You play him alongside Oladipo, Peyton, Vucevic. I reckon this is a playoff team, and not necessarily this coming season, but this team makes a lot of noise in 2016, 2017.
Right.
And this was a great pick.
For me, I agree with you. It was a great pick, but I think they should have gone Cauley Stein here, man. Honestly, he would have given them much more, in my opinion, because a guard and a forward hybrid, someone on the wing that's good, you can find that.
Yeah.
For me, Cauley Stein would be like a centerpiece, and Orlando has a great history with centers.
Exactly.
So,
speaking of teams with great centers at the moment, we will move on to the 6th pick. Sacramento does pick up Willie Cauley Stein.
Yeah. This is interesting, man.
Yeah, he's a defensive monster. So there's an argument he might be playing instead of DeMarcus Cousins, and that rumored trade might happen. Or he could play alongside DeMarcus Cousins as a defensive center to offset that offensive mindset of DeMarcus Cousins.
So you're saying when DeMarcus Cousins comes off, he comes in?
Or they could play in the same lineup necessarily. You
at
play
the 5 and 4?
Yeah, exactly. They could... It's positionless basketball is coming in a bit. And you could conceivably see Willie Cauley Stein playing alongside DeMarcus Cousins. I think up there with Okafor, Willie Cauley Stein is the most NBA-ready prospect in this draft.
Yep.
He's ready to contribute right now, and man, it's going to be interesting to see what moves Sacramento does make, because they will make moves. They're going to trade, definitely. They're going to be a big player in this
Look, for me, I think
free agency.
Cousins definitely leaves. There's no doubt in my mind that he's going to leave. So for them to pick him up was a great pick. Because
now you have insurance policy whether he leaves or not.
Exactly. So, but I disagree with you. I don't think they can play together, man. I can't see that happening. DeMarcus Cousins is good enough to hold the paint down by himself. And you put another guy in there, suddenly teams are going to stretch the floor against you too much, And
Very
we
true.
said before, guard-heavy league. I think that would be a disaster for Sacramento right now. And especially
because they're not already a disaster.
No, I know, but and we talked about this last week. I don't believe in their guards. I know you do.
I think Ben McLemore will be good.
I have my doubts about McLemore. He's a bit indecisive and he doesn't make the right pass a lot of the time, man. He's I don't know. There's just something about him that just gets me a bit worried. I'm just glad he's not.
I think he's a great potential third option in the future, but as you said, not a lot of faith. I think this is the first big slipper of the draft in terms of going down the order.
At number 7?
At number 7, Emmanuel Mudiay.
Denver Nuggets picked him up.
Does this mean Ty Lawson's out the door?
No. I don't think so. No.
You reckon Sacramento might not...
See, for me, this was the best player available pick. Because he was the best player available. Yeah, this guy was top 5 talent.
You couldn't make it let him slip much
more. You could have made a case he could have gone 4th to the Knicks. So, I think that's where I
could make a case he should have gone to the Knicks at number 4.
If he had gone to the Knicks, I'd be over the moon. We'd be having a completely different conversation right now.
Exactly.
But a great pick. He's a really good player coming out of China. Another player with pro experience,
Exactly.
So, not many like that out in the draft, and he offers you everything you need as a point guard.
Yeah, exactly. He's probably the most prototypical point guard in this draft. Great athleticism, great passer, has played at the professional level before. He's 19, plenty of upside.
Yep.
You know, Denver could have finally gotten the star they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, great pick by the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, and Denver just seems like a team that's just been underperforming so much this past decade. It's funny because they've had great players like Melo, you know, Iguodala,
but they could never escape the first round.
No, and Kenneth Faried, I love Kenneth Faried.
The manimal.
But it's just a weird vibe. Maybe it's the thin air up in Denver. You never know.
That altitude, man.
I don't know, man.
Maybe they're high in a different way. Colorado legalizing weed. You never know.
Let's not get into that. All right,
dangerous territory.
Moving on. Speaking of dangerous territory, Detroit Pistons. Damn.
Oh.
Bang bang.
Stanley Johnson, I reckon, was the perfect pick for them.
Perfect.
Great pick. There's not much I can say about it, really. Like, he's going to be a great plug-in at the 3. He'll provide something on both ends. He's pretty ready-made already, so...
Arizona's an underrated school at the college level, man. I've heard, a lot of people giving him stick from the college he came out of. But damn, I know Arizona wasn't, really tipped to win the NCAA championship or anything like that. But the way this guy played, you can't take that away from him, you know? And
yeah.
Just because he was on a school that doesn't have other superstars like Kansas or Kentucky, you can't take that away from guys like this. He is a top 10 talent.
Exactly. So pick number 9 too. Jesus Christ, Michael Jordan might be the worst NBA GM. The disparity between professions, greatest player ever, probably just a horror GM. You had Justice Winslow on the board. You also had an option from the Boston Celtics to get 6 draft picks. And then you go and pick Frank Kaminsky. Look, he's not going to be a scrub, but he is not...
Look, man, I'll be honest here. Compared to the other players available to them at 9th, he is a scrub. Compared to them, he's a scrub.
Yeah.
Man.
Look,
it's no question.
Frank the Tank.
We love Frank the Tank Kaminsky, man.
But, he feels like Christian Laettner in the way that he'll be great at the college level, but he's not going to contribute massively on the...
I just don't know about him.
I reckon he has the potential to carve out as a niche as a floor-stretching big man in this league, potentially as a starter, but he's not number 9, not ahead of guys like Justice Winslow.
You had Miles Turner there as well?
Yeah.
Let's see, Kelly Oubre as well. Damn, you could have taken Jerian Grant. You know? And I know he slipped a hell of a lot, but...
So, let's talk about the pick. We won't say too much on Charlotte. This is totally a Michael Jordan pick. This is a Michael Jordan pick, all over.
And look, the question now is, does he play the 4 or 5? For me, he has to play the 4. Because you've got Al Jefferson, who's irreplaceable at the 5.
But he's a 7-footer, he can get over guys in terms, there's 6'8" guys playing the power forward in this league, so he has plenty of height advantage.
Yeah.
Needs to bulk up a bit, but... I can see him starting, but let's talk about the guy that they passed up for Kaminsky. How did Justice Winslow go 10th?
Look, this might be my favorite player of the draft.
This is my... I think the fact that he went 10th too, this is my steal of the draft. Easily.
Oh, for sure. Easy.
Steal of the draft.
Easy steal of the draft. Going to Miami?
A huge NBA-ready
goodness.
contributor on both ends of the floor at the 3 spot. The absolute position of need for Miami at the moment. They're going to be able to put out an insane starting lineup.
Yeah.
And this is typical of Pat Riley. He's just able to do this. They weren't expecting him. They didn't even have a jersey ready for him. They just gave him an NBA draft jersey because they're like, we didn't know we were going to pick you.
Right. And you said, the lineup is going to be crazy. Let's say they bring back Wade. That's Dragic, right?
Dragic, Wade, Winslow, Bosch... And
Hassan Whiteside, who we think will develop into a consistent big.
Exactly. This is a crazy lineup. Miami is just... They've done well.
This puts them in top 4 in the East, in my opinion. Winslow is that good, bro.
Yeah, and then you also have... Let's consider you also have Luol Deng, who let's assume he stays as well. You also have another former All-Star playing this is going to be a strong year.
A lot of assumptions being made here.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we still need to talk about...
half the Miami team are free agents at the moment.
But just putting him there with Dragic and Bosch, that's still good.
Exactly.
You get a couple of role players in free agency, you can do some nice things there in the East.
Okay, we'll keep it moving, won't we?
Yep.
So pick, the 11th pick.
Indiana Pacers, they picked Miles Turner.
I think this is a...
Center out of Texas. This is Roy Hibbert insurance, pretty much.
Yeah.
Not insurance, but a replacement.
Roy Hibbert's leaving.
Yeah.
Look, he's a mobile big man, but beyond... I think there's a lot of risk with him, because beyond his rim protection chops, a lot of stuff left to develop with him.
I think it was necessary, though.
Oh, because it's best player available.
And David West is going to be gone, too. So there's a lot of hype that you're going to be replacing that team.
You need a big man.
Yeah.
So, a necessary pick. I wouldn't say it was a pick of the draft or anything.
No.
Crazy, but it was a good pick.
It's what they needed.
Exactly.
They weren't stupid about it.
Okay, so the 12th pick by the Utah Jazz.
Trey Lyles, forward out of Kentucky.
I think they needed a bit of front court depth, so I don't mind it. There's not much I can say about it, really. I think they needed the front court depth behind guys like Favors, Gobert. I think in Trey Lyles, you have someone that can contribute right away, so, good pick.
Yeah, but for me, they could have gone guard here.
Yeah, but...
You know what I mean?
Because, let's be honest, guys like Exum and Trey Burke haven't exactly developed to the level that they would have wanted so far.
In my opinion, that front court's better than the back court. Okay?
Yeah, no, I agree, definitely.
So, you put Devin Booker or Cameron Payne in there, and suddenly it's got depth. You've got a rotation there with those players that you just mentioned. But I don't really want to talk about Utah. They're kind of irrelevant.
Let's talk about another one of our favourite teams, Marcelo, the Phoenix Suns.
We legitimately like the Phoenix Suns.
We actually like. I actually really like, especially last season. They were just great to watch.
Shooting guard Devin Booker out of Kentucky.
I reckon this is another steal right here. The fact that he went 13th. This may be with D'Angelo Russell, the best shooting player in the whole of the entire draft. Perfect fit. As someone coming off the bench to replace either Bledsoe or Brandon Knight. There's not much else I can say about the pick. A great shooter, a specialist. Perfect pick by the Phoenix Suns.
Well said. I'm not even going to add anything to that. Let's just keep it moving.
Pick 14. This is, in my opinion, one of my other favourite picks of the draft. We have the Oklahoma City Thunder selecting Cameron Payne. A huge upside on this guard. Potential backup. Let's call him... Yeah. I'm going to call him Reggie Jackson Mark II.
Pretty much, hey?
Yeah.
And you got to remember, Westbrook might not have a future in OKC.
Exactly. So you have huge insurance either as not necessarily an all-star grade starter, but you have maybe a potential huge contributing sixth man or even a starter in the future if things don't fall their way in a few years. He'll get time, I hope, in this coming season. The fact he has plenty of potential at 14.
Look, I'm going to make the prediction right now. When it's all said and done, this guy is going to have at least one all-star appearance. I like him, man. Pick, yeah. I like him. And,
And, let's be honest, OKC has drafted really well before, so when they come out and draft a guy, you got to be like...
You're just going to ride that. I'll ride that prediction for sure.
They picked Ibaka in the 20s. They know how to pick guys. Speaking of that, let's move on to 15. Kelly Oubre Jr. to the Hawks.
So... he went to the Wizards eventually.
Yeah, so it was a trade.
But I don't know.
I think it was. I think
it was an okay pick.
I think there was better guys still left on the board. I think he'll do well at the Wizards, man. They need that front court. They were starting Drew good in some games in the fight.
Right.
I reckon right now they need the power forward spot since Paul Pierce is
exactly
leaving.
That's what I was trying to get at. Yeah.
They need a power forward of the future. Kelly Oubre Jr. could be that. More than likely not. I see this as the first pick of the draft where I'm maybe a role player, maybe not great.
See, here's the problem with the Wizards. They're too young for me.
Yeah, and we saw what a huge impact Paul Pierce had.
Exactly, and he's going to have a lasting impact.
Yeah, exactly.
But you need someone permanently in that locker room, man.
Exactly, and I think John Wall is going to become that guy, but I think...
Eventually.
This team could be a contender, but I don't reckon... And we saw they made some big noise in the playoffs, but... I don't see them making it into the Eastern Conference Finals quite yet.
No, Bradley Beal needs to step up, simply put.
For sure.
He needs to be better than what he was this past season. He's got potential, man. I really like him, but he didn't play well. So you step up to the plate, John Wall's there, you get KD. you get KD and suddenly you're in the finals.
I reckon you've already bought a KD Washington jersey. You just... We'll move on to the 16th
That's
pick.
A conversation for another
day.
Now,
I had huge hopes for the Boston Celtics in this draft. I'm a sneaky want Boston Celtics to be good again sort of supporter.
Does that have something to do with Bill Simmons?
Yes.
Fair enough, though.
And I'm a big proponent of Isaiah Thomas. I love the guy.
Brad Stevens, too.
Brad Stevens.
You do love him.
President Brad Stevens.
The man himself.
So, at number 16...
Terry Rozier.
Another guard, like another small defensive guard to stick behind Avery Bradley and Marcus Smart. Like, they really needed like a big man here, I reckon. Like they need, or they should have made it's a flat. Like they should have gotten that number 9 pick, but Charlotte's retarded and didn't take it. Mm-hmm. So we could be talking about the Boston Celtics having Justice Winslow right now, and I reckon they're really devastated that they don't have him. Mm-hmm.
Look, for me, they should have tanked this past season, to be completely honest.
No, I reckon it gave them plenty of good experience, but I still think I think their great moves aren't going to come out of the draft at the moment. They're going to come out of free agency or trading, and we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Boston's a great city. I would not underrate them in free agency. I feel like a lot of players would love to play in Massachusetts because it's so close to big markets like New York and Philadelphia.
Exactly.
You know, it's right in that cluster up in the northeast. They have a chance to get some pretty good guys in free agency.
Exactly. So we'll move on to pick number 17.
Milwaukee Bucks, man. Pick Rashad Vaughn out of UNLV.
I reckon this is a little bit of a reach. To me, I saw him going early 20s. It's only a little bit of a reach. I can see him being a quality contributor in this league. Like Milwaukee, like they're gonna still be a playoff team.
They're gonna be a good team, man. I think this team grows. I know the Larry Sanders thing really hurt them.
Yeah.
But Jason Kidd is doing such a great job there.
He's been a really good coach and that proponent of positionless basketball, playing a bunch of 6'7" guys at any position. And I'm a big fan of the Greek Freak.
Oh, for sure.
So it's going to be...
Say his name, Nathan. What's his last name?
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Damn, that was all right.
I think I said it right.
You did better than I thought you would, for sure.
Antetokounmpo.
I would have said something like that.
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
No, I think first name we got it.
Yeah.
It's the second one. That's
okay.
the problem.
Let's move on to a team that has less pronunciation errors. Pick 18.
Houston Rockets, Sam Decker.
Great pick.
Yeah?
Second best steal of the draft.
Wow.
Because this guy should have gone maybe even in the lottery. Mm-hmm. He's an NBA-ready contributor. A bit inconsistent on the offensive end, but he's a perfect role player. He's ready to contribute as a role player right away on the Houston Rockets. Look, man, under the radar, Houston had a great draft. Like, we won't really talk about the second round today, but they did draft Montrezl Harrell at 13.
Yeah.
And they also picked up someone who we thought would go in the first round, but when undrafted, Christian Wood. They got him on it as a free agent.
We still need to figure out what happened there.
We do.
If you know what happened to Christian Wood, please comment.
Give us a yell.
Get in contact with us, because I have no idea what happened.
I think Houston, for the picks that they had, maybe got the most value at the draft. Mm-hmm. They're going to still... I still see them as the Western Conference Finals next season. They're not going away. They're going to get a big free agent. I can see it just lying under the waters. They're going to get a big power
Houston's
forward.
a big city, man. Houston's
and there's
plenty place right there.
There's some pretty good history there too. Like,
Look, man.
Watch Houston next season.
You got this, arguably, well, we talk about this every week, who should have been the MVP.
Yeah.
And you got Dwight.
And you got some great, it's a very attractive destination.
No, it's a good situation right now.
Okay, so pick 19.
New York. Well, okay.
So Washington originally had the pick, but New York pulled off the trade of the draft.
Look, man, I love this trade. I love it.
So we see Jerry Grant, a 6'5", ready-made contributor at the point guard spot.
Wait a sec, let me call you out though, because you tweeted me and you were trying to hate on him, man.
I wasn't hating. I was hating
Or were you hating on me?
No, I was hating on the Kristaps pick for you because because what I said to Marcelo, by the way, is does this redeem New York? Kind of, not really at all. Honestly, and that was more just for the hurt of the Kristaps. I was rubbing it in a bit.
I was kind of pissed off when you sent me that tweet.
Yeah,
I was hurting, but you let me know.
Yeah,
and I had no idea that this had gone down.
The fact that Tim Hardaway went to
the
Wizards for nothing. I think it was a 3-team trade in the way that Washington got Kelly Oubre, Atlanta got Tim Hardaway, Knicks got Jaren Grant. Mm-hmm. Great pick.
Look, this is amazing for the Knicks because we gave up someone that wasn't ever going to be great. He wasn't ever going to be a good player. He was going to be average. He was going to be decent for us. But I really believe in Jerome Grant. I think he can be a great player.
I think he's an instant starter at the Knicks.
Oh, for sure.
Unless there's any surprising free agents, he's an instant starter at the point guard spot.
Unless we get Rondo, I want this guy starting.
Exactly.
Rondo's the only player that we can get right now that I would have starting over
He's 22, so maybe the upside isn't huge. Mm-hmm. But he's a ready-made, possibly a starter in this league.
I don't know. A 22-year-old can really develop, though.
Exactly. We saw Tim Duncan come into the league at 21. Mm-hmm. We saw what he did.
I wouldn't put him in the same breath.
I wouldn't. Tim Duncan's one of my favorite players. But I'm just saying these young players that come out of college after graduating can still be huge contributors.
Yeah.
Bad example though.
No, that was a very bad example, but this is a great move by the Knicks.
So we won't mention every other pick so far, but is there any other picks of note that you wanted to mention before we move on to possibly some free agents?
Justin Anderson to Dallas.
Man, good pick.
That was a great pick, man. Because I had Justin Anderson. I think I had him going top 15. He was at least top 15 talent.
Yeah, he's a good pick. Especially by Dallas, who needs to, make these good picks.
What about RJ Hunter to Boston?
Look, he's a great offensive player. He averaged over 20 points in college, coming from the shooting guard spot. Look, I think, as I said before, Boston needs a big man, but I think they'll get that through free agency. So I think, in terms of adding another good young player, I think RJ Hunter is a great pick. One more pick I just want to mention. My Chicago Bulls picked Bobby Portis, someone who I saw going 15th, ended up slipping to the 22nd spot. Great Chicago grabbed him. It does raise questions now, though, because we have 4 power forwards that are capable of getting big minutes.
Yeah.
Someone needs to go Taj Gibson. But look, he's a great player, but you need to give you need
the
to keep
age
Powell.
Factor as well.
You need to keep Powell. You need to keep Mirotic, and you need to keep Portis.
Yeah.
So I think just the odd one out, Taj Gibson, now 31, he's an attractive contract. I think we can get some good pieces.
And he's played well, he plays hard.
Exactly. It's no knock on his play, but you can't give 25 minutes to all these guys.
No, and you can't get rid of the other 2 guys, like you said.
Exactly. Pau Gasol had a great season. So
yeah.
Let's move on from the draft and maybe look at other ways that players can arrive at teams. Free agency's coming up next week, Marcelo.
Some pretty big names, man. Big names.
Who's your hot take? Who do you think will go somewhere that maybe it hasn't been reported hugely? Maybe you're just got a gut feeling about it.
Gut feeling? I think Dwayne Wade can go to the Cavs.
Prepare the hot take.
That's a gut feeling one that hasn't been. Oh, obviously it's been reported. It's been rumored for ages.
Yeah, it's been rumored.
For me, the way that the contracts are set up, sure, it's going to be difficult. But LeBron and Wade know each other, man. They're good friends.
The decision mark too.
I would love for Wade to go back to Miami, but I can't rule that out. Him going to the Cavs. I can't rule it out at all.
That's a great point. The only reason I don't see it happening, if let's say the Cavs were under the cap, I could see it happening in a second. But they're on the bill for some big contracts, man. They can barely make Thompson and Love come back at the same time, let alone get one of those 2 and Dwayne Wade.
Right.
Dwayne Wade, the whole issue with Miami at the moment is the contract. He wants $20 million. Miami wants to give him 10. I reckon eventually they'll find some middle ground and it'll be coming back to Miami. But as you said, it'd be great to see him and LeBron reunited.
Yeah, because it would give him something.
Exactly.
Something
and then
out
you've
of
got an
J.R.
instant starting shooting guard as well.
Yeah.
That'd be a great team.
What about you?
I can definitely see something sneaky happening with Paul Pierce. Paul Pierce might be going to the Clippers possibly. Reunite with Doc Rivers to finish his career.
I'd say definitely.
Or possibly he could be going back to Boston to finish his career, because he did lament that he wasn't able to spend his entire career at Boston. So I could see Paul Pierce going back to Boston, and that could be used as a sweetener for attracting some free agents, maybe one certain power forward from Cleveland.
Right, and that would be nice to have Paul Pierce back in Boston.
Exactly.
But I think for me, sending him to LAC, like going to the Clippers, would probably be the best move
for him. Yeah,
for him because
you
literally have the potential to win instantly.
Exactly.
I mean, the Clippers are a really good team. Chris Paul for me is top 3 guard in the league. I'm not too high on Blake Griffin as other people, but he's still one of the best players in the league.
Exactly.
You know?
And I think the potential with the Clippers all hinges on this DeAndre Jordan free agency. Because the rumours that he might be leaving are heating up a lot. To me, he's already gone.
Look, if he leaves, Blake Griffin's not going to be too happy, man.
Exactly. And, there is the rumours of the ongoing feud with Chris Paul. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily buy into that
I don't believe it either.
But, look, there's going to be some attractive offers on the table from a lot of teams, most notably the Dallas Mavericks. Mm-hmm. There's some offers from the Lakers as well.
Yeah.
I could see that happening with the Lakers. I reckon that'd be good.
I can see him going to the Lakers more than the Mavericks.
But I think he needs to be in a system where he's not the first option offensively. He needs to be a contributor on the defensive end. He's going to change any team massively on the defensive end.
Right, but like we were talking about Love just a second ago, you put Russell, Kobe in that backcourt, right?
Yeah.
DeAndre Jordan at the 5. If you can get Kevin Love to start in that lineup, that's a good team, man. He could be the 4th option. Exactly. That's what he needs to be. He's just got to catch that ball and dunk it.
Good point.
You know, he doesn't need to get in the post or do anything stupid like a 360 layup.
Do you see anything for, we're already assuming Marc Gasol's come back to Memphis.
Yes.
That's obvious. Yeah. Where's LaMarcus Aldridge going? Because in my opinion, he's going. He's not staying.
It's got to be Dallas.
Dallas?
Yeah. Or San Antonio. It's got to be one of those two.
For me, it's San Antonio or the Lakers. I think the Lakers suddenly have become a lot more attractive for free agents than they were a year ago. Look, man, San Antonio can do it, but there's a lot of uncertainty because, the previous win now. You've obviously got Kawhi there, but Duncan's almost 40. Pop's not going to be coaching for too much longer. The guy's 70.
Right. So that was the question I wanted to ask. So how long does Popovich go for?
So you've got this great system in place, but it's all been because of Popovich and some great staffing selections and Tim Duncan, Manu, Tony Parker. It's coming to an end soon. I'm not saying the Spurs won't still be a great organisation, won't still get those 50 wins a year, but there's less certainty than there would be.
Right.
So I think LaMarcus does leave, and as you said, Dallas is a leading selection, and I reckon that's a really good pick. I reckon that might end up happening, but I think it's San Antonio or the Lakers.
Right. I mean, if he goes to San Antonio, what's stopping him from signing a short-term contract?
Exactly.
You know, if you ride out a couple of years in San Antonio, you get a chip.
Exactly.
Then you go get some more money, you know? Go play for another contender.
Exactly. Is there any way you see, now we've recently heard the news that Brook Lopez has opted out. Mm-hmm. Is he just trying to get a bigger deal from the Brooklyn Nets, or is he potentially trying to get on the move?
Look, regardless, he wants more money.
Exactly.
Right.
He's a big man who's an incredible low post scorer, so I think any team would want a 7-2 guy with that kind of talent.
For me, he can start and be a good starting center.
Exactly. So
where does he go? That's tough, man. A lot of teams need a player like that. We're going to have
to just see where this story develops and everything else. Yep. Just to finish off our NBA coverage for the day, Rajon Rondo.
Rondo!
One of your obviously favourite players.
Yeah.
Where does Rondo go, Marcelo?
Look, he needs to go to New York, but I don't think it's going to happen. I'm not sure where he's going to go, man. I can't say anything right now because it's just going to break my heart. Whatever team I choose is not going to be New York.
I feel like because of the Russell deal that happened with the Lakers, I think the Rondo to New York is more likely, but it doesn't really fit the triangle. Because they're committed religiously to that triangle. They really are. So, you know.
Okay, if he goes to the Knicks, it's got to be... It's not going to be Rondo's way or the highway entirely. But Rondo's got to be running that offense. And I believe in him. You know, it's just that simple. I know a lot of people don't. And a lot of people don't see him as a good point guard in this league. But for me, when he's on form, he's top 3. You know, I really love Rondo and the assists he makes, man. It's just amazing to see him play.
I think from a passing standpoint, obviously, in the right system, he's a top 5 point guard. From an assist standpoint, I reckon the role of point guard is a bit blurred now because of all what the noise that Curry's been making, what Chris Paul does on a regular basis. You've got Russell Westbrook just dominating. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Rondo as well. Oh, well, we might move on from the NBA for a moment from our basketball exclusive podcast.
So, some big things happening in football, man.
So, we've got the Women's World Cup.
Yep.
Unfortunately, this morning, the Matildas were knocked out against Japan from an 87th minute winner.
Right. Look, I was talking about this last night with my family. I was like, look, if the Matildas win this game, they can win the cup.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it didn't pan out.
Japan's a great team, by the way.
Like current world champions, right?
Yeah.
So, what more? You can't be mad. And, okay, I'm going to be honest with the listeners. Nathan and I talked about having a discussion about the wage disparity on the pod.
We're not going to really touch it too much.
Nathan, let's touch it. Let's go to it. Let's go to it, man. We got to talk about this because it's a real issue that's affecting a lot of professional players and
it's
women.
It's a symbol for a lot more than professional sport too. Like, it's being pointed at as a big example for feminism, and I completely agree that it's a big argument. And the disparity itself, in a vacuum, is something hugely wrong with not only sport but our society. In a vacuum, nothing else considered, this is like you're giving the men 30 times more than what you're giving the women. When the women overperform what the men have done, like that's just it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
but sport is run by money, and we've got to look at revenue. Like we've got looking at it objectively, you've got to look at revenue.
And look, my point of view in this is yes, they do need to get paid more. It's
obviously there's no argument. No. You need to give for a team that can perform as a top 8 team in world soccer. You need to let them become their full-time job. You can't expect these women to go out, work another job, and then perform at the absolute highest level when there's other countries that would allow them to be full-time just as a professional athlete.
Right.
So you need to give these professional athletes at the least the opportunity to pursue this full-time.
But what people need to remember is the biggest problem in football right now is that it is so inflated in terms of pricing of players internationally and at the club level. Everyone is getting paid so much money and it's a problem, right? I agree. Yes, women need to get paid more. That's a simple fact. No one's going to dispute that. You mentioned the revenue rates, okay? And we're not taking anything away from their performance because they played just as hard, if not harder than the men to get to this point in the competition, okay? They knocked out some good teams, man. They played really well. But at the same time, should they be on the same pay wage as the men? No, they shouldn't be. Because right now the men have transcended what they were supposed to be because you got to remember women's football hasn't grown as much as men's. It's just that simple. Maybe one day they'll be on the same level, and we hope that's the case.
And the unfortunate thing is that men's football has had a head start on it.
Yeah.
A huge head start.
But you can't deny that.
But is this partly the fault of the media for not promoting women's sport anywhere near as much?
See, that's another problem.
I feel like they don't get the opportunity to showcase their skills as much because it's not promoted as much by the media because they know right now there isn't the interest level, and you're not going to grow that interest level without huge promotion. Like, you see some of the goals from this World Cup and you're like, Jesus Christ, these are good goals.
Yeah.
And I think one of the great other examples, and I'll just stray into it in a second, I watched the Firebirds Grand Final the other day, the netball Grand Final. I reckon of any sport, that Grand Final had the most intense finish I've seen in a long, long, long time. They were 4 points down going into the last 2 minutes. Usually in netball, my dad was saying that's game over. GG, Firebirds.
GG's.
They get 5 straight points in the last minute 30 or so. Just absolutely pandemonium scenes. Like, it was incredibly exciting.
And they were rewarded for that because there's going to be a new arena built.
New arena, $30 million arena.
Yeah.
And, like, that's the sort of stuff we need. We need the promotion from the media, which we've seen extensively. Like, this is the thing that's going to grow not only women's football, but women's sports. extensive promotion of the great things about it.
Yeah.
And look, it deserves. I hope one day we are seeing women getting paid millions and millions of dollar contracts to play sport if men are getting the same thing at the same time.
Yeah.
But right now, the reason they're getting so much money is because of TV deals and because of the massive sponsorships, everything. They're getting more money because there's more money in that line of the sport right now.
Exactly.
And that's a fact, but that's also a fact that needs to adapt so it can change.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. The sport itself has to grow as a whole. You can't just be paying people astronomical wages when everything else in the sport is at a low level.
You can't have 21-year-old millionaires in men's sports and women living below the poverty line.
No.
Like, that's just a massive discrepancy.
Right. And yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head with that one, Nathan. They do deserve to get paid more, but the sport itself has to grow as a whole.
Exactly.
It's not just the individuals that need a profit, it's the community, it's the youth, it's
something
almost
it's almost something fundamental that needs to change, not only about sport, but the way that we view professional women.
Exactly.
That needs to change as a fundamental part of our society.
And I mean, watching W League now, it is, and even A League, we both talk about this all the time, like with our mates and everything. Watching A League 10 years ago was easily the worst thing on TV because they couldn't touch it. They couldn't get a good touch, they couldn't shoot, they couldn't pass, they couldn't do anything. Fast forward 10 years, this league has grown so much.
Exactly.
Okay, so the growth is possible. You watch W League now, it's watchable.
It's about having a fan base and also organisations that are dedicated to the idea of growing it. So we want to see something like the A-League model happen to not only women's sport, but even the women's A-League.
Exactly.
Like, I'd love to see that on TV.
Yeah.
Like, because we obviously had a mate, Jaya Brown, who spent some time in the Adelaide United side.
Yeah, shout out to Jaya Brown, because she's a great player, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember the first time I watched her, I was like, damn, this girl can play, man.
Exactly. So we'll move on, but as we said, we've given our viewpoints.
Yeah.
And we hope we talk about more women's sport in the future too. We hope
sure.
that's high up in our headlines.
You know what? We'll promise that to you. Because there's a responsibility. As small as our podcast is right now.
We just discussed the media needs to take a responsibility.
Yeah. So, I mean, it would be hypocritical of us not to talk about women's sports more. And we will make that a responsibility.
Okay, speaking of international soccer, we'll quickly move on to the Copa America.
Yep.
We have a semi-final lineups from Chile versus Peru.
Yep.
The host Chile, obviously, and Argentina versus Paraguay.
So,
Paraguay's been a bit of a surprise this Copa America.
Yeah, I mean, they were in that group of death with Brazil, scraped through, and now they've beaten them on penalties. Can we just talk about that handball, though?
Ugh.
Thiago Silva, look, everyone's giving the blame to Thiago Silva. But if you watch that video closely, Silva and Dani Alves both raised their hands, and I swear to you, they both touched the ball with their hands. So, look, they were both idiots on that play. Who throws their hands up when they're going up for a header?
But let's be honest, Brazil have played poorly this World Cup, and it really hurt them, that Neymar suspension. It really did.
Because Neymar's the best player on the team.
I see them getting through with Neymar on the team.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. For sure. Neymar is probably the, second best player in this competition.
Exactly.
You know?
Not,
the
second best. I just remembered who played for Argentina. I'm
right.
Okay, second best.
He's one of the best players in the world. You know, there's no taking that away from him.
He's come of age this season, and that's what I really like to see.
But how many times have we seen this Brazilian defense do stupid things?
Exactly.
And it's confusing because they have one of the best centre backs in the world, Thiago Silva.
And they also have the best right back in the world, Dani Alves.
Exactly. And, you know, David Luiz is no scrub.
He's not a scrub. He's prone to a bit of hot-headedness.
Yeah.
But I think if you actually look at him play, he's a great player. Is he playing out of percent? Like, has he traditionally played out of position at centre back?
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
I would have loved to see him more at central defensive mid. I reckon as a holding midfielder, we experimented when he did play for Chelsea. R.I.P. Chelsea David Luiz. Back in 2012, we did experiment with him at centre defensive mid. He was good. He was really good.
Yeah.
I reckon I would have liked to see more out of him there. Who'd you pick for this Copa America?
Okay, well, for the semi-finals, what is it? Argentina, Paraguay?
Yep.
Paraguay's going to win that game, man. And that's a huge call, if I do say so myself.
You feel like they've got the momentum, though.
Look, Paraguay, I couldn't... Okay,
I couldn't name a player.
If you sat me down for 5 minutes, I could probably come up with a player or two, just because I do watch a bit of Copa America. But they have no superstars. Okay?
No stars.
Literally the entire attacking force of Argentina. Like
You could play 11 strikers for Argentina.
If you looked at the numbers, I'm sure Sergio Aguero's salary would outdo the entire team of Paraguay.
Easily.
Okay, so you've got literally David and Goliath. But Goliath isn't playing well, man. Argentina's struggling, and we've seen them struggling forever in international tournaments.
They're one of the most perennial underperforming international teams I've ever seen.
Yeah.
For what they are, they should have given even, like, obviously we saw World Cup final last year, so underperforming might have been a bit of an overstatement, but like, they should be, I reckon next World Cup, there's huge pressure on them to win.
No, but even this past World Cup, they made it to the final, but it wasn't pretty, man.
No, like
there were a lot of games.
They didn't score a goal for a few games, and they got through luckily on penalties.
Yeah,
like, I don't know, man. Like,
with the best player in the world, you do expect more.
Exactly. So, look, I'm gonna go with the same pick I had in the World Cup last year. I see Argentina not only making it through against Paraguay on basis of pure talent. They will beat Chile in the final, and we'll see an Argentina and Messi finally lifting a significant international trophy.
Look, if that does happen, it's going to be big, and I do also have Chile in the final. If it comes down to Chile-Argentina, like, okay, if Argentina wins this game, they're winning the competition.
Exactly.
Because they're going to have momentum coming out of that. They're going to be hot. They're going to be firing. I think Messi, if they win this game, Messi's just going to have an all-time performance against Chile, because Chile, although they are a good team...
Because Messi has a huge opportunity here.
Exactly.
Like, maybe the biggest opportunity of his international career.
Exactly. You can't ride...
Well, maybe not compared to last World Cup, but like a pretty big opportunity.
Just to get silverware. He's got to get something, you know? But Chile just can't keep riding Sanchez. And that's what they're doing, man. I know Sanchez is a great player, but at the same time,
you
can't
have ride one player to an international trophy.
No,
it's just straight up.
And with the troubles with the Vidal thing and everything that went on with him drunk driving, you know, it's very confusing to see.
Very preferential treatment, you think, as well. The fact that he's got off pretty lightly.
Okay, but that's a factor to them being the home team.
Yeah,
and that's why I do see them beating Peru, because Peru's been playing well. Okay, but this
is the same breath that you mentioned with Paraguay. Like, there's not too many superstars.
Exactly. But Chile's got this. I think it's going to be Chile-Paraguay in the final for me. And
I can't say it. You know you want to pick them.
Paraguay is going to win this tournament, man.
Oh, hot take.
Paraguay is going to win this tournament.
Put money on it now, Marcelo. If they win it, like...
Should I put $10
yeah,
on
put
this?
A cheeky 10.
Dude, the odds on that must be pretty
Bet responsibly
high.
from the No Regard podcast.
Definitely gamble responsibly.
All right. I want to quickly mention something before we move on to our question of the week. We have...
Let's bring it back home. Let's bring it
local.
Let's
bring it back to our roots. The Brisbane Lions.
Look.
Now, I've abstained... You know me. I've abstained for maybe, let's say, 6 weeks.
Yes.
Probably
Brisbane, a great city.
The
Lions...
Not formerly great team. By formerly, I mean about 15 years ago.
How are they doing now, Nathan? Just go. So, I'm going to just let you speak.
So, guys, last night, I'm at a poker night, but I'm following along with the Lions game. I look at once, and it's 3/4 time. We're up 24 points. We haven't had a win in maybe about 6-7 weeks.
So, you're feeling pretty good right now.
So, I'm like, look, we're at home. We're at the Gabba.
Mm-hmm.
Adelaide haven't been playing particularly well. There's a few stars that are injured. We have a chance to take a big advantage of this. We're 24 points up, 4 goals. A decent enough margin to hold advantage going into the final term. The game ends.
Mm-hmm.
We scored 2 behinds in the last quarter. 2 points in an entire 30 minutes of football.
And how many points did the other team score?
Oh, the other team only scored 33. So we ended up losing by 7 points. In a game we should have completely just... credit to Adelaide, though. That was a good comeback.
Great. Just a
but
it
was just a capitulation at home. We've lost 7 of our last 8 at the Gabba. One that used to be an absolute just coliseum. Mm-hmm. Like a fortress. You couldn't get a win there 10 years ago. It was like you couldn't breach the Gabba. It's... Teams see us as walkovers now. And they're completely right. We are being walkovers at the moment.
What has to change, though?
Look, I honestly think we made some great moves in the off-season.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Dane Beams has been our best player the entire season. Look, he's a great talent. I think he's top 20 in the entire league. He gets his possessions. He makes a good impact every week. But I think it comes down to the coach even, man. Like, it's an organisation that has problems. It's a trickle-down thing. They have problems all the way up from the top of the organisation, the front office. It trickles down to the coach. It trickles down to the attitudes of the players. It trickles down to the complete nonchalance of our fans, where we don't really care right now what happens to the Lions, because we've had 5 years where the team has screwed us, and we've seen those players that got drafted recently in recent years that did exodus to other teams. Elliot Yell is now playing for the West Coast Eagles, and he's a potential star of this league. Like, this guy is All-Australian in 2 years, in my opinion, and we let him go for near nothing. We had Jared Polek, who's now carving out an alright niche in Port Adelaide. He hasn't been great, but he'd definitely get a start on our side. We look at Sam Doherty. Like, sure, Carlton haven't been great, but he's been a classy halfback there. That's some potential we could definitely use in our defence. Look, there's just so many guys that have left Brisbane and have become like very decent players outside of there. We have the talent now. Stephen Martin is arguably the most athletic ruckman in the league. Daniel Retch is an incredibly dangerous kick. Dane Beams is great. Tommy Rockliff's been injured, but he's a great player. As I've said, I think we can't keep Lepage on anymore. We need an experienced coach. We can't keep picking these former guys from the premiership sides that haven't proven their chops in terms of coaching. We need a available coach that knows how to hardline with these players, someone that can just is a hard voice in the locker room. We need an experienced coach. I don't know who will be available at the end of the season, but we need someone who knows how to mould these young guys into the final side that I know they are.
Because they've got talent, right?
Exactly, plenty of talent. There's not much I want to more say on it because it just makes me physically upset. But come on, Lions, pick up your game.
You got to do your city proud, Lions.
Exactly. Like, I'll be faithful. I'll keep being faithful because they did give us good times. Once your team's won a premiership, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we have the potential to at least be a finals team. Like, that's all I want out of you guys. I want even just low-seeded finals in the next few years. Like, come on, please.
For Nathan.
For me. Let's move on to our question of the week, Marcelo. Now, we're having a pretty fun discussion before.
Yeah. We stopped it because we needed to put this on the pod.
We needed to put this on the pod. Now, we have, obviously, in all of international football, there's two guys. And we won't debate these two guys. Messi, Ronaldo, the two best players in the world.
No contest.
No contest. There's such a gulf between them and anyone else.
Yeah.
The careers they've put up are all time. I'd argue they're both top 5 players ever. Yeah. If not the two best players ever.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
But I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Like, these are guys that have put up all time careers. We won't see anything like them for a while. Mm-hmm. But there's always been a rotating sort of argument. Who is the third best player in the world? Because it's always changing.
That's the question,
it's
right?
Always changing.
Who is the third best football player in the world?
Now, let's mention some of the guys that have been in this discussion before that maybe we wouldn't even consider now.
Okay, Falcao.
Radamel Falcao had an absolutely just horrible season at Man United.
Yep.
He had a horrible Copa America, so even glimpsing him in this conversation, ever since he moved from Atletico Madrid, he hasn't exactly been that same player.
Right.
But his time at Atletico Madrid, I reckon he was definitely in that conversation.
He was a monster.
A monstrous striker, as you said. But right now, like...
He's not even in the conversation.
Exactly.
He wouldn't be in my top 100. Like, it's that simple. There's easily 100 players better than Radamel Falcao right now. So we should have mentioned this last week, like you said before, in the biggest falls from grace in sport.
I mean, it's been pretty instant for him. Like, he just... Well, remember the hype that was around him when he got signed on loan from Man United?
Oh, yeah.
They've got the title. They've got Di Maria and Falcao.
Van Persie,
they both just didn't fit. Like... So let's talk about some players. Do you have anyone to talk about?
Look, the first obvious one that comes to mind for me... Actually, no. I won't even take that from you, because you know who I'm going to mention. Yeah. Let's just say Ibrahimovic.
Ibrahimovic now is turning 34. Mm-hmm. So potentially he's coming down, but we haven't seen any signs of it really. Mm-hmm. for someone of his height, he has incredible touch with the football. So his highlights package is out of this world. An absolute legend for Sweden. Been to plenty of different clubs in his time, by the way. He's almost notorious for how many clubs he's been to, but he's contributed league titles to almost all of them.
Yeah.
A player that you can build your team around, a player that you can rely on the attacking side of the ball. I mean, it is Zlatan. What's going to say about Zlatan?
It's a great accent. I don't know where that's from, but we'll take it. Yeah.
And
what more
guys, just look up Zlatan Ibrahimovic quotes. That's the recommendation of the pod for the week. That you'll just have a great time.
What about you?
She doesn't need the birthday presents.
There's a player.
She has Zlatan.
There's a player in blue.
Eden Hazard is, in my opinion, the most clear-cut case.
Yeah.
Because obviously, best players in the world will always move towards attacking players because they provide the most exciting parts of football for us on the attacking side of the ball.
Yeah.
Look, Eden Hazard, I got the absolute privilege of watching him live earlier this year at the friendly in Sydney, and look, he just made those Sydney players. He paid off my ticket basically. Him and Diego Costa paid off my ticket. Just watching them playing, incredible stuff. He has such amazing touch with the ball. Incredible pace. He's great from set pieces. He's great in open play. He has the full package. I wouldn't necessarily put him up there with Messi and Ronaldo, obviously.
No.
But he is the best player in the Premier League at the moment. Chelsea will be able to hold on to him now. We are such a big club. Who changes their jersey number from 17 to number 10 and wants to leave immediately?
No one.
Exactly.
No.
So this is a club.
He's staying for sure.
This may be the makings of a club legend if we can keep him.
Yeah.
And he's going to be the main player that keeps Chelsea where they are at the top of English football. I want to throw out a wild card, Marcelo.
Okay, do it. Let's do it.
Now this guy, look, we all recognise him. I think everyone who's a half decent soccer fan who listens to the pod would recognise this player as a great player, but not often do we speak of him as the first player behind Messi and Ronaldo. Manuel Neuer.
See, I love that. I love that you said that.
The Bayern Munich goalkeeper. Now,
he's far and away the best goalkeeper in the world.
He's redefined the position because obviously he loves to sweep. He loves to come out of the box and just take on players. The courage he has to do that is something that not only makes him great because of his ability, but it's something no other goalkeeper really tries that we see on that level.
Yeah.
And obviously he used to be a midfielder as well. So that we're seeing where all that skill comes from, everything like that. But look, Manuel Neuer has redefined the position of goalkeeper. Obviously he's not, that doesn't mean everyone else in the goalkeeper in the world is far and away worse than him. Like we see guys like De Gea, Courtois, Bravo at Barcelona as well. There's a lot of great players that are our goalkeepers at the moment, but Manuel Neuer is the best.
Yeah.
And he's going to continue to be the best for a while. In my eyes, if you're looking at from just guys who are so brilliant in their position, so brilliant at their roles, and maybe don't get that recognition, I think Neuer has to be right up there as possibly, if not third best player in the world. You can't look past him at maybe top 5 or 6.
Look, I'd probably put him top 6, like you said, because there's a few names we still got to go through, man.
Yeah.
Look, for me, Iniesta has to be in this conversation.
Really?
Look, for me, it's between him and Hazard as the best midfielder in the world. I know Hazard plays more attacking, because Iniesta drops back, controls a little bit more.
Because Iniesta, despite being a world-renowned player, scoring one of the best goals of the last decade in the World Cup of 2010, doesn't get enough media recognition, in my opinion.
No, and that might be because of his stats as well. You look at his stats.
He's not someone that's going to light you up with goals and assists. And
if you're playing fantasy, you're not choosing Iniesta because he's just not going to get you enough points.
If we're going to talk about players that have not only been great but made their teammates better.
Exactly.
And there is a running joke that Iniesta has served up a lot of Messi assists, but he has made Messi better. He has,
and he's made Xavi look better as well than what he really was. Let's be honest.
So maybe the LeBron James of international football, in the way that just makes all his teammates better.
Just an amazing player, man. He's got to be in that conversation. And another man he assists, Neymar.
Exactly. Neymar definitely has to.
He has to be in this conversation,
especially
too.
after this great season that he's had.
Yeah.
Like, he's someone that, before he came to Barcelona, look, he was making great noise with the international side, but there was a lot of questions about whether he could contribute right away. His first season was really good, but it wasn't amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But now we see him making a lot of noise as the second best player in that Barcelona side, and look, maybe even the third best player in the world.
Look, as a Barcelona supporter, I got to be honest here. When we bought him from Santos, I believe, I thought this guy would be a flop.
Well, in perspective of the hype about him.
No, but like not even like we could have paid them like $5 million for Neymar, and I still think he would have been a flop because you got to remember at the time, Sanchez, Pedro, Jefferson, a lot of really good young players. We still had Deulofeu, who we just sold to Everton. So the fact that he completely proved me wrong because I just thought he'd just do a bunch of flicks, a bunch of tricks, and just get beat up and he'd leave. Because that happens to a lot of Brazilian players.
Exactly. Like,
he's not the biggest guy.
And it felt like it might be a Robinho situation. Great as a young player, but maybe fades a lot as he gets older. But that's not what we saw from him.
No, Neymar looks to be like the next best player in the world.
Once, obviously, Messi and Ronaldo hit their, possibly go down, which makes me sad to even talk about.
Messi just turned 28.
Yeah. Like,
Ronaldo's 30.
Like,
bro, we're about to see the end.
We are seeing them at their peaks right now.
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate it while we've got it, guys.
Exactly.
Don't argue about who's better.
No.
Don't argue about anything like that. These two are out of this world, and appreciate them while you have them. Watch as many Champions League games, the two big Spain teams, as you can over the next few years. You are seeing greatness.
Do you have another name, bro?
I think that just does it for me.
Yeah, I think that does it for me as well.
If you guys have any other contributors, who is your third best player in the world? Feel free to let us know.
Whoa, wait a minute. Just a quick one. Wayne Rooney's got to be in there. I'm sorry. I have to put it out there.
Plug.
Wayne Rooney on form is the most complete player in the world. I said it. He can pass way better than Ronaldo, man. Ronaldo can't pass the ball for crap.
And he's been asked to play a lot of different roles.
Midfield, defensive mid, striker, out wide.
He doesn't complain, and he just
hardest worker I've ever seen. I just wanted to say that.
No worries. I buy that too. He's a great player. Possibly, he's still, I think, top 3 in the Premier League.
Yeah.
All right. We'll move on to our and-ones for the week. You wanted to mention some Ultimate Fighting Championship to us, Marcelo?
Oh, look, I just wanted to talk about Conor McGregor, Jose Aldo.
The Irishman.
Okay. So, obviously, Conor McGregor, we all know, talks a lot, right? And I love it, man. Best trash talker I've seen in quite a while, to be honest.
Jeez, he really loves absolutely making those outlandish statements. Yeah. But the best thing about a trash talk is one that can back up what he says.
Exactly. And he's only lost twice, and I know Jose Aldo's only lost once. I'm not sure exactly of their records. I think Aldo's 19-1, and I think McGregor's at 17-2. But those are pretty equal records. People are saying that McGregor kind of jumped the line for the championship fight, and I agree, he has. But that's because of the media hype. And he brought that. He brought that himself. No one else did that for him. He did that himself, okay? I think McGregor's going to get in the ring, in the octagon, my bad. He's going to beat Aldo, okay? And I know this fight's like 2 weeks away, June 11th, I believe. And Jose Aldo's already making excuses saying he's got broken ribs or bruised ribs. Like, where was this a week ago? You know what I mean?
And Conor McGregor's just going to eat that up.
Exactly, right? So... For me, McGregor wins this, probably a knockout, if not a submission.
And he loves to pick the round that he's going to knock guys out in.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be really interesting if that prediction does come true.
I would honestly recommend you guys watch this fight. This is going to be a great, great fight. And it's going to redefine the UFC for the years to come, because you got to remember, Aldo is on his way out, okay? McGregor's on his way in. This could really be the start of a new era. So it'll be a really interesting fight. It's going to be fun to watch. But what's your and one, bro?
I just want to do a quick plug for a new movie that has come out in this past week or so. Last Friday, I didn't mention on the last pod, but I went to see Inside Out.
Mm-hmm. No spoilers, please.
No spoilers, but I'm going to give it as a plug as the best Pixar movie in a while, maybe since Up.
Wow.
And I'm a big fan of Pixar movies. I have great childhood memories of watching the Toy Story movie, watching Finding Nemo, all those movies. So great movie in Inside Out. It's entertaining to not only little kids, but you'll notice as an older big kid, like you'll see, I'm a big kid, man, I'm not gonna lie. You'll notice all those deeper issues that come out with it, everything like that. Not gonna spoil any plot. I just recommend you guys go out and see it. It's a great movie.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna be watching that.
A few tearjerkers in it, mate.
Oh yeah?
Prepare yourself.
Alright, I'm ready.
Alright. Well, that'll do us for this week. Make sure you go follow us on our respective Twitter handles.
What's yours, Nathan?
Nathan_Bleakley. And yours?
I'm at Marcelo _Lucha. Just like the page on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. What more else is there to say?
Give us some love, hate, just, whatever you guys, just get involved.
Yeah, just give us some feedback as well. What do you want to see? What don't you want to see? I don't know.
Do you feel comfortable with us, turning this into a 95% NBA podcast like we have been? Just give us your opinions, guys. We'd love to hear them. All right. For now, I'm Nathan Bleakley.
I'm Marcelo Lucha.
This has been the No Regard Podcast.
Thanks, guys.